All right, let's just get right into it. Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're tuning into this, you probably already know the deal, right? Optimal health, it doesn't just happen to you by accident. It is engineered. But here's the trap we all fall into. In our modern world, we are literally drowning in data, endless studies, and totally conflicting guru advice. So today, we are doing something different. We are radically rejecting the pursuit of perfect total health information. Why? Because as critical thinkers, you and I know that perfect information is often biased, totally unobtainable, and frankly, it's just an illusion that keeps you stuck. Instead, I'm going to walk you through a manifesto on personalized, actionable experimentation. Think of me as your mentor for this process. We're going to stop endlessly reading and actually start executing. So we've got to ask ourselves a pretty hard question here. Are you paralyzed by the pursuit of perfect health information? Hey, it happens to the best of us. You spend weeks researching the absolute optimal workout routine, the perfectly calibrated diet, or the ultimate supplement stack, and then what happens? You end up doing absolutely nothing because you're terrified of making the wrong choice. We call that analysis paralysis. Well, in today's explainer, we are completely cutting through that noise. We're shifting our focus away from all that theoretical fluff and aiming it directly at what actually moves the needle in your daily life. It is time to become the absolute lead scientist of your own biology. To pull this off effectively, we need a totally new framework. I want you to start thinking of your biological and psychological self as the garden. Now, your garden is not just your physical body. It's not just your meat suit, right? It's the entire interconnected ecosystem of your life. We're talking about your internal physiology, sure, but also your external environment. It encompasses your mental state, the quality of your relationships, and the actual structure of your daily routines. If you truly want to optimize your life, you cannot treat these elements in isolation. You really have to understand the whole ecosystem you're operating within, because a toxin in one area, it's inevitably going to seep into all the others. So let's look at the divide we have to acknowledge within that ecosystem. First up, we've got what we'll call the uncontrollable sky. This is basically the macro weather of your life. We're talking about your baseline genetics, which, we can modulate through expression, but we can't rewrite the code itself, plus things like global politics, mainstream medical dogma, broad societal stressors, and past traumas. You cannot reach up and physically touch or immediately change the sky. So pouring all your cognitive energy into worrying about it, total waste of your biological resources. Instead, look down at the soil and plants. These are your micro-accessible variables. Your sleep hygiene, the specific nutrient density of your very next meal, your movement patterns, deliberate light exposure, and the supplements you choose. This is your domain. This is exactly where you execute your hacks. Listen, as a dedicated biohacker, your approach isn't theoretical at all. It's empirical. You aren't operating on blind faith here. You're operating on cold, hard data. Tending your garden means you are literally taking the scientific method and applying it directly to your own life. You're going to move from observation to a targeted intervention and then right back to observation so you can measure the actual real-world results. This is the fundamental difference between just reading about human optimization and actually optimizing a human. Okay, let's break down how this builds into a super reliable 3-step methodology. Step 1 is the radical self-audit. Instead of chasing whatever shiny new trend you just saw on social media, which, let's be real, is just another distraction up in the uncontrollable sky, you must look at your baseline. I'm talking about your heart rate variability, your sleep scores, your fasting blood sugar, and even your subjective mood. Step 2 is the minimal effective dose intervention, which we're going to unpack in just a sec. And step 3, questioning the why. You don't just ask if a hack worked, you ask, why did this specific intervention work for my unique biology, even if it totally contradicts some mainstream study? That is how you connect your personal, anecdotal evidence right back to the underlying theory. Now, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding step 2, the minimal effective dose, or MED. This simply means selecting and testing a single high-leverage variable at a time. Maybe it's a new nootropic stack for focus, or maybe it's deliberate cold exposure in the morning. But what you absolutely must not do is overhaul your entire garden all at once. Seriously, if you change your diet, completely flip your sleep routine, start a new workout, and add like 6 new supplements on the exact same day, you've ruined your data. You'll have literally no idea what caused the positive or negative effects. You've got to tend to one patch at a time, rigorously testing that single variable so you can clearly measure its specific impact on your system. All right, with that methodology locked in, let's move into our next section. 3 immediate daily habits. It's time to transition from theory straight into daily practice. Habit number 1 is completely foundational. We're talking morning deliberate light exposure, paired up with mitochondrial support. Getting sunlight into your eyes first thing in the morning sets your circadian rhythm, which basically governs almost every biological process in your body.
Pair that with targeted supplements like CoQ10 and PQQ to directly feed your mitochondria, those microscopic powerhouses of your cells. Look, waiting around for some perfect, comprehensive medical test from a mainstream doctor just to tell you you're fatigued, total waste of time. Optimizing your mitochondrial health right now today gives you an immediate, measurable return on your energy levels.
Moving on to habit number 2, which brings us to the actual structure of your day. We're talking about implementing a specific fasting schedule or a highly protected, focused work block. Now, you might be wondering, why group these two together? Well, because they're both fundamentally about restricting inputs to completely optimize your output. Whether you're restricting caloric intake to induce cellular autophagy, your body's internal recycling process, and stabilize blood sugar, or you're restricting digital distractions so you can enter a really deep flow state, these are incredibly accessible soil interventions. They cost absolutely $0, require zero equipment, and provide you with instant leverage over your physical energy and your cognitive focus. And habit number 3 tackles the recovery phase. This involves aggressively blocking blue light after sunset and implementing a targeted magnesium and apigenin stack exactly 1 hour before you intend to go to sleep. The mainstream approach? Well, that's sitting under artificial daylight until midnight, tossing and turning, and then complaining to your coworkers the next day about a terrible night's sleep. But the biohacker's approach is recognizing that sleep is an active process that has to be engineered. By blocking blue light, you're directly signaling to your brain that it is time to produce melatonin. And by adding magnesium in apigenin, which is an active compound found in chamomile, by the way, you chemically relax your nervous system. It is a highly precise, targeted intervention. As you'll see here, this synthesis just perfectly illustrates our whole philosophy. Notice the really stark contrast. On the mainstream side, we have this huge obsession over the uncontrollable sky. That means sitting around worrying about global toxin loads, passively waiting for perfect medical tests, or just complaining about bad sleep. Honestly, it's kind of a victim mindset. But over on the unconventional biohacker side, we are actively tending the part you can touch. Instead of stressing about global toxins, you actively implement a detox protocol with binders and liver support. Instead of waiting for tests, you optimize your mitochondria today. And instead of complaining about sleep, you engineer it with light blocking and targeted supplement stacks. It brilliantly contrasts passive worry with active, calculated action. So why does all of this matter so profoundly? Well, it's all about compounding gains. When you consistently tend to these small, reachable parts of your garden, those returns really start to compound over time. But I'll tell you, the most vital takeaway here isn't just the physical optimization, it's psychological. When you run these small, successful MED experiments and you see real results, you build massive momentum. You develop this incredible internal resilience and, most importantly, radical self-trust. You actually prove to yourself that you have absolute control over your own state of being. And honestly, that acts as the ultimate biological and mental hack against all the fear and uncertainty of the modern world. I really want you to internalize this rule. Start digging where your hands can reach. You absolutely do not need permission from a massive medical institution to optimize your diet. You don't need mainstream consensus to just step outside and get some morning sunlight. You already possess all the agency required to take control of your biology right now. So stop looking up at that uncontrollable sky and start looking at the soil right in front of you. So, I'm going to leave you with this final provocative question. What will your first minimal effective dose intervention be today? Not tomorrow, not next Monday, today. Is it going to be ordering those blue light blockers? Will it be fasting until noon? Just pick one high leverage variable, audit your baseline, run the experiment, go tend your garden. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I literally cannot wait to see the data you generate.